Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed from the title of the video, the thumbnail, and the intro, that we are talking about this gun right here. This is the relatively new, as of when I'm making this video anyway, 1911 design from the folks at Sig Sauer. It is their 1911 XFULL. As of when I'm making this video, they are available in 3 different configurations. This one here has the Coyote PVD finish on there. Looks really slick, and I did request this from the folks at Sig Sauer for the review. Just full disclosure on that, they did send it out for the review. They don't get to see the video first. They don't get any input on what I say, etc. So there is that. So basically what we're going to do is kind of walk you through the gun today and also point out some things that have changed versus their previous 1911s, as well as versus what would be like a traditional 1911, if you will. So with that, we'll start out here at the butt and work our way towards the tip for some semblance of order. It does come with 2 8-round Meggar 1911 magazines, and for folks who are new here, 1911, this gun here is chambered in 45 ACP traditionally. Obviously, there have been other chamberings over the years, but it is a big, heavy gun, single stack gun, and weighs 42 ounces unloaded. I should point that out. And again, 8-round mags are standard capacity for the 1911. There, of course, are a number of 10-round mags that are available out there as well. Now, we'll just make sure that we are clear here, which we are. And starting out here at the bottom, we do have a steel magazine well that is removable. So on some of the previous versions, I believe they call it like the Scorpion or whatever version they had, the magazine itself was blended into the grips for some of the Sig 1911s. This one is not. It's a more traditional style where it goes back up in here into the spring housing, and that's where the screw goes. So if you don't want, for whatever reason, that magazine well, you don't need it. However, I don't know why you wouldn't want it on a 1911. It does aid in reloads considerably, simply because you have a very narrow point going in there, if that makes sense. So I'm a big fan of the mag well, not mad about it at all. And the mainspring housing there is checkered, and continuing on up there, we do have our functional grip safety. Some 1911s have that pinned. That obviously is not the case on this one. So in order to actually fire the gun, this has to be pressed. So that is an additional safety that a lot of 1911s have. That was present on the early guns because they weren't all drop safe, and we'll get into that here in just a second. So it was an additional safety in addition to, of course, our thumb safety. But again, we will get into that here in just a second a little bit more. Continuing on to the front side, we do have good checkering there on the front, and when you combine it with these G10 grips from the folks at Lock Grips, this gun sticks in your hand. For a, a 45 cal gun that is going to have some recoil, obviously, because it's 45. It's not 9mm like we've gotten used to these days. We're sissies. But no, it definitely sticks in your hand and has good traction to it all the way around. It just feels really good. If you guys haven't shot a 1911 before, I definitely recommend it. It is a unique experience, and one that I recommend. Continuing on up, we do have the undercut there on the frame. Now, I should point out that the frame on this is stainless steel, and then the slide is carbon steel. That's something Sig does and has done for years. A lot of other 1911s will go stainless and stainless, but just know that there are 2 different steels on there, and will that ever matter to you? Probably not, but just throwing it out there because. Continuing on over to this side of the pistol, our slide lock and slide release is slightly extended. So versus your traditional ones, it comes back further. So for those of you guys who want to hit it with your right-hand thumb, if that is you, you're able to more easily do that on this particular gun than on most. And it definitely has good serrations on there. I have no issues with it at all. I never missed it, nothing like that. It's continuing on back, I should say, to the safety, it is enlarged. So if you compare it to some of the earlier SIGs, like for example, on the STX, which has a more traditional style of ambi safety, this one is much larger. It is larger on the left side than it is on the right, but both of them are increased in terms of size, relative size, to your traditional 1911. So it's very easy to hit, actuate on and off. Has a good click to it, if my mic can pick that up. So safety on there, very solid. The magazine release is traditional size. It does have some checkering on there as well. The trigger on this gun is, they call it a flat shoe. However, it has a slight curve to it. So I'm not sure we can actually give it the official flat shoe designation, but that is what they call it. And let's, again, verify that we are clear. Now, what I was intimating earlier in terms of the early 1911s, those are traditionally, for new folks here, called Series 70 1911s. This is not one of those. This is what is traditionally called a Series 80 1911. And what is the difference? Well, there's a big difference, and it is actually inside the slide there, and also there's a little portion here that comes up from the frame as well. And what that does is it gives you a firing pin safety. So recently, as of when I'm recording this, I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but I released a video on my social media that a gentleman named Ben Stoger put out, and he basically dropped a staccato C, and the gun fired. And the reason that is that traditional 1911s, i.e. Series 70 1911s, are not drop safe, meaning that if you do drop them, particularly front down, the firing pin can go forward and strike around. That was one of the reasons that they wanted to put the grip safety on there. Not that that would prevent it, but they wanted to have as many safeties as possible on the original design. This one has a firing pin safety. So that is the pro of it, is that it is a safer design in terms of handling, dropping it, etc. The downside of a Series 80 1911 trigger is that you feel it. You feel the actual firing pin safety. Now, if you've never fired like a really good Series 70 1911, it may be hard to notice it, but if you have, you notice it, right? So let's go to the trigger here real quick. And we have a little bit of play there, and then you feel, right, basically when you get right at the wall, you feel that firing pin safety, and then it moves a little bit more, which is that right there, and then it breaks. This one breaks very clean. In terms of compared to a normal gun, it's an excellent trigger. Compared to a nice Series 70 1911, it's not quite as nice, right? So pros and cons. And then you just release it for your reset right there. It has a good positive reset on there. But again, press, nice smooth break. Again, right at 5 or just under 5 pounds, but you do feel that extra force that you need to put into it to overcome that firing pin safety. It just is part of the design of the gun, so just know that. Some people out there will say that it's a great thing. Some people out there will say that it's a bad thing. I'll let you guys decide down below in the comment section. Continuing on up to our trigger guard, it's a traditional 1911 trigger guard. Some different brands over the years have squared this off and or increased the size of it. This one's pretty standard, nothing crazy going on there. Continuing on forward, we do have a 1913 rail. You guys have probably seen throughout the video that we have been running several different lights on this. It is a 1913 spec, so any of your lights that will fit on this gun. And honestly, I think it just kind of looks better with a light. It's my personal opinion. Kind of rounds it all out, if you will. Now, one thing that Sig did change was the way that their dust covers are here on their 1911s. This one is a more traditional style. And then continuing on up to the slide itself, they also have rounded this off a little bit at the top compared to what they have traditionally done. Traditionally, they have these sort of square blocky slides, which I think kind of look cool. The problem with that is they don't fit a lot of holsters. Now, this particular one that I have here fits all of my 1911 railed holsters out there, but this one will not fit a lot of my 1911 holsters. So just know that if you have a holster that's compatible with your older design Sig Sauer 1911s, it may or may not fit this one. Now, this one isn't traditional in terms of like your average rounded slide. It's kind of in between, and it kind of looks like it has a Sig P320 profile up there. So there is that. It's kind of a hybrid in terms of the older design versus the new design in terms of the slide profile. The actual serrations there are functional. You can use them, no problem there. Now, I'm not going to take this gun apart because YouTube's weird about that these days. However, just know that it has the short guide rod, a traditional guide rod, if you will, and spring. It doesn't have a full length one on there. And obviously no bull barrel, just standard barrel on there, which it is what it is. I don't have any issues with that either way. Now, to delve into some controversial things for the 1911 folks out there, this does have an external extractor. My opinion, after shooting, I don't even know how many thousands of rounds through 1911s over the years, the external extractor is the superior design. Oh my God, John Browning is rolling over in his grave, I know. But it is. It's absolutely the superior design versus the internal extractor, which has to be tuned. If you have an external extractor, in my experience, they do not need to be tuned. I've never had to tune one, and they just simply are more consistent. This gun, if you guys watch the firing sequence that we probably been rolling in here, this thing throws brass. It throws it like 30 feet every time, consistently, regardless of the type of ammo that we are using, and just very good extraction and ejection on this gun. Barrel, of course, is your full 5-inch barrel. It does have a nice wide feed ramp on there. We've had zero issues firing hollow points through this gun. We fired a number of different types. I may be cutting the video here to show you some of that. We've got some Fiocchi 230 grain hollow points in there. We'll see how she runs. pretty well. Continuing rearward on the slide, we do have serrations at the rear as well as the front. They feel the same. Are they the most grippy serrations in the world? No. Are they completely functional? Yes. Moving up from those, they are interrupted at the top by, of course, our optics cut. That is one of the bigger deals with this particular pistol versus pretty much most of your factory 1911s out there on the market. This one is cut for a Shield rms-c pattern optic. Obviously, we have the Sig Romeo X on here. It's been great. I have zero issues with it. I have a full drop test, torture test of this optic coming. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned. It will be up one of these days whenever I get around to it. But this has a very low deck height, this particular optic. And one thing that does is it allows you to co-witness with standard height sights. Speaking of the sights, one thing that's different versus your traditional 1911, which has, of course, no back cut sights, these have the same sights that you would find on your P226. So any of your standard Sig pattern sights will work on this gun if you want to swap these out for whatever reason. However, the sights that come with it are very good. They're Sig's X-ray sights, so you have that bright ring around it up front. Tritium, of course, inserts in there, and then you have your subdued tritium back here at the rear with a square notch in the rear. Very, very good sights. I have no issues with them at all. Of course, they are steel, unlike Glocks, which certainly is nice. And the optic has had zero issues at all. Like I said, nice co-witness. And on a lot of other guns, one thing that's nice about this sight is that it has fiber optic rear sight built into it. Of course, on this particular gun, you don't need it, but just a note on the optic there for those who are looking into it. Now, one thing that always comes up whenever we talk about 1911s that don't cost $3,000 is what parts are MIM. And what is MIM for you folks? It's metal injection molded versus like a forged or a billet part. I've looked all around online. I've seen many people saying different things, but one thing I can tell you just from looking at it, that there's a couple parts on here that are MIM. The slide stop and slide lock is MIM. You can just see it the way the metal is, and the same is true here on the hammer. If there are other parts, I don't know. I have no way of knowing, but I can just tell you just looking at them, they are MIM parts. Now, is that a bad thing? I mean, in general, I would say if on a 1911 in particular, if you can get forged or billet parts, go ahead and do that. That said, MIM, when done correctly, from every single mechanical engineer I've ever talked to, they all say it's just as strong. It just comes down to if it is done properly, and that I don't know. However, one thing I will tell you is that if you guys watched the review of this gun, the STX, back when it was up, YouTube took this video down, by the way. For those who don't know, in early 2023, my channel was suspended. They removed like 130 something videos. This was one of them, but this gun has over 2,000 rounds, zero issues with it at all. Probably has the same MIM parts as this one does. Speaking of round count, this particular one has over 1,000 rounds through it at this point. Thanks to our friends at Firearms Depot, by the way, for supplying all of the non-9mm ammo that we use here on the channel. They sent out every single round of 45 that we have put through this gun that you guys have seen running here, and we definitely appreciate it. It definitely helps make everything we do here possible, because our largest expense for sure is ammunition, because we shoot a lot here. So big thanks to Firearms Depot for sending it out. That is a heavy ask rather, to be the ammo sponsor here on the channel. So in terms of reliability, we had one malfunction, and I believe it was the third magazine we ever ran through the gun. And what I was doing was trying to top the gun out, so meaning 8 in the round and 1 in the tube. Some guns have an issue with that, and wanted to test it out and make sure it would work just fine, because of course you have extra tension at that point pushing up on the slide, and we had a malfunction. Uh-oh. Had a failure to feed. Looks like we have Metgar factory mags in there with some arms core. Now, it was loaded with 1 in the chamber and 8 in the mag, so that definitely could have been it. Some mags, guns, ammo combinations do not like that. It was forward in the magazine a little bit. Interesting. Metgar mag, we'll keep an eye on that. We got 1 in the chamber, Brown Elf mag, topped off. A few more rounds through the gun now, so we'll see how it does. Didn't lock back, but no issues feeding. Forgot I +1'd it. I could not get it to happen again, so I don't know if it's just a break-in issue or just a one-off issue. Speaking of that, magazines, the mags that we ran through the gun were, again, it comes with 2 Mech-Garb mags, and then we also had Brownells send out some of their magazines to test in this gun as well. Again, like we mentioned, 0 malfunctions outside of that one that we just talked about with either the Brownells mag or the Mech-Garb mag. So either way, we were good to go on that one. And all in all, what do I think about it? Well, before I tell you, I suppose we have to talk about price, because that's always important. So price point on this gun, cheapest I've seen it online is $1,500. So it kind of puts it in the middle of the pack in terms of production 1911s. Like some of your more Gucci'd out Springfield guns are going to be more than that. Some of the similar offerings rather from Smith & Wesson, for example, will be a little bit lower than that, of course. To the best of my knowledge, as of right now, when I'm making this video, none of them are offering a factory optics cut. So if that is something you're interested in, then this is definitely one I would look at. But price point, right around $1,500. I think it is a good gun for the money. Like I said, 1 malfunction out of over 1,000 rounds. Pretty darn good. Accuracy was great on this. Speaking of that, we had MagTech 230 grain ammo, and we were getting consistent 2-inch groups out of it. Now, I'm sure there are shooters who can shoot much better than that, but that was the best groups that we saw with the ammo that we actually ran through it. The MagTech ball was getting right around 2.5 inches, so it's pretty darn close as well. The arms core opened it up a little bit, but it ate all of it, and most people don't need that kind of accuracy out of a handgun, and most people can't shoot that well, if we're being honest as well. So accuracy was very good as well, despite not having a bull barrel, some of the other things that people do to accurize 1911s, if you will. So all in all, seems like a very high quality gun for the money. Is there, or rather, are there higher end 1911s? Yes. Will they do anything better or different? At this point, it's kind of hard to say. This one's been pretty darn good. We'll have to continue putting rounds through it to see. But if we do that, we will make another video about it and talk about it in the future. So if you like this type of video, if you look forward to seeing some of the other videos that we've teased throughout this one, definitely hit the subscribe button if you've done that and you're not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel. Make sure you sign up for my email at the website here on your screen. This email goes out once a month, and it has all of the videos since the previous email went out, so that way there's no big tech giant censoring your eyes from my content. And it's just a good way to not be censored. Additionally, speaking of censorship free, check out my social media sites, particularly the non-meta ones, where I actually post things and people actually see things. What a concept. Mark Zuckerberg cannot fathom it, but check me out on those sites as well. And if you've done that and you still aren't seeing the deals, you're not seeing the stuff that I'm putting up, wherever you are following me, you can sign up for the daily deals email. As the name indicates, it goes out every single day, and it has 8 of the best deals that we find around the internet. If the item, whatever it is, guns, optics, ammo, lights, etc., if the item is in the email on that particular day, it is the cheapest that I know of anywhere on the internet, because I've done the price comparisons for you. So that way it saves you some time and hopefully saves you some money as well. And there's also a good Pro 2A meme in there that a lot of folks like. So sign up for it if you're just interested in memes. I'll allow it. And with that, guys, we're going to close the video out. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.